Welcome back to another edition of Coach's Corner. I'm Michael Manny. I'm here at Cromer Stadium with the head coach of the Panthers, Gary Cook. And coach, heck of a win last week on Friday against Mesquite. Came down to the final play. Just a few days have gone by now. Just what are your thoughts on how that game ended?
Well, my initial thought is it should have been an easy, comfortable win. We should have won probably by 2, 3 scores, but we got stopped on the one. We fumbled in the first series of the third quarter. Should have been a comfortable win, which is what we went into the game anticipating. But this is way more valuable for us because we've been in so many of these games that come right down to it, and it's gone the other way. This time around, we did what we had to do, both on offense. That was a great drive to take the lead after they had tied it up in the fourth quarter, and then the stop down deep, just phenomenal. So, hey, not as comfortable during the game as I'd like it to be, but in the long run, there's a lot of value in winning that way, I think. So,
Dylan Collado exited that game twice, came back in both times, kept contributing on both sides. What did
well,
that just show you about his
well,
toughness?
he's a competitor. He wants to play, and at first I thought it was a concussion, but it wasn't concussion. He wasn't in concussion protocol or anything. He just really got stunned on that play. So, but he wants to compete. Man. He wants to be out there. So,
Well, rematch this week against Grand Canyon region rival in Bradshaw Mountain. What is that like preparing for a team where both teams are just very familiar with each other?
it's really interesting because you think that both teams are probably going to learn from what happened in the first game, and there's going to be nuances that are put into place. But at the same time, you don't know what else might come in. So they did have a game since then. They played Prescott, so we got some film on that. But I think the biggest part is you kind of look at how that first game went, what things happened in the chess match, and tweak those things and continue that progression, if that makes sense. So.
What did you learn from that first game back in October that you hope can apply to this week?
Well, the biggest thing in that game is, well, first of all, we got down 14-0 real early in the game. The guys came back. We ended up tying the game at 21. It ended up being a one possession game. I think, we learned several things. Number one, that the competition of that game, the teams are pretty equal. Okay, both teams did really good things. They got the jump on us. We were able to come through it, but uh, we learned other things about how they were going to go about attacking us. They obviously are going to learn about things what we did to them, and that's what's going to be interesting now is how does that progression move, to the next game. So, how much of the same stuff's going to happen? Are they going to bring in new stuff? We're going to bring in some new stuff. So, it you learn a lot from the first game, but there's still an element of mystery to me in a sense.
Well, we kind of talked about this after the game on Friday. You're very familiar with Bradshaw just from your time there. What's your relationship with Coach Young like?
Well, I think it's a relationship of respect, and he actually, when I got this job, he kind of helped me with that. He, initiated contact and was instrumental, I believe, in that. And I just think that there's a great deal of respect between the two programs. I coordinated for him one year, and it wasn't really his offensive style, so it didn't continue. But we had that a positive relationship, and it's continued ever since. And I know that they have deep feelings about Coconino as well as ours in their direction. So it's a rivalry. There's no way around it. Yeah, I think it's felt really strongly on both sides.
And lastly, what do you think it's going to take? What is your X factor for coming out with a win on Friday?
Well, I don't think we can make mistakes like we did in the first game. And maybe some game mistakes that we've made in a couple of the other last couple games. We were a little sloppy at times against Flag, and we shouldn't have been in that position against Mesquite. We got to eliminate those errors, and when we have those opportunities to score, we have to take advantage of it. We can't leave points on the field, and I think the biggest thing is the guys have got to go into this with an attitude that game may very well go right down to the wire. That's what's happened the last 2 years here. We went a year ago. They scored to win that game with a minute to go in the game. This year's game, we were down on the 20-yard line on a, to be honest with you, questionable fourth down mark with 4 minutes to go, and we were, had a chance to go in and tie that game. So I think the guys have to be prepared mentally for it to be that kind of game that could go right down to crunch time again, and just keep playing hard all the way through. So,
Well, Coach, as always, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you on Friday, and best of luck.
okay, great. Thank you, man.